Hello everyone, it's been a little while since I last did a video. Today I wanted to do an update video on my Fireblade because I've now had her for 2 years. I've done 10,500 miles and there's lots of videos out there that give you instant first ride experiences on bikes, but there aren't as many that kind of come back and revisit a bike after a period of time to tell you what it's like to live with on a day-to-day basis or on a longer term basis. So this is a 2015 Fireblade, although it is on a 16 plate because it was a showroom model that hadn't been selling, and hence why I got such a fantastic deal on it. So first thing I can say about having had this bike for 2 years is it is absolutely awesome. I love it. It's done everything I could possibly ask of it, and it's done all of that pretty well. I've done some commuting on it, I've done some A and B road scratching on it, I've done some motorway miles, pretty much everything. And it hasn't failed to disappoint at any time. So some of the things I love about this bike are its handling and its feel. I mean, it's reasonably lightish, it's pretty nimble, it's not the lightest of sports bikes, but it's by no means heavy either, around 200 odd kilos, but the whole geometry of the bike just makes it feel really alive on the road. It's got very, very nice handling, very flickable. I mean, you can see it just, without too much effort. Yeah, certainly after riding my cross tourer, yeah, it's a cliche, but you kind of almost only have to think where you want to go and it goes that way. It doesn't need manhandling around. And part of that, I think, is the suspension setup as well. The suspension is on the firmer side, but not enough that it jars your back every time you go over a pothole or something like that. It's pretty accommodating for UK roads, but at the same time, when you start pushing on, it really rewards you. It holds a beautiful line mid-corner, and only on the bumpiest roads does the suspension start to feel a little bit fidgety at the back. The other thing I really like is its balance. I mean, it just makes slow riding an absolute doddle. I mean, here I'm barely at walking pace and I'm not even having to try. Just makes its maneuverability and getting around slow moving traffic and stuff like that really, really easy. I also absolutely love the engine in this thing. It is so smooth. It's turbine smooth. It really, really is. No vibrations whatsoever, no lumpiness, and it's so user friendly as well. The fueling is absolutely spot on throughout the whole of the rev range. Yeah, it's quite happy just pottering around at 30 miles an hour. I mean, even here, fourth gear, and it doesn't feel like it's struggling. Open the throttle a little bit. Yeah, I'm just tickling the throttle here, and it's very happy. Change up third, fourth, and then the pickup, just lovely and linear. It's great. So it's really user friendly. You can just tickle it around and it's not a problem in traffic or commuting, town driving, anything like that. But then when you want to be really raucous with it, you can kind of pin it to the stop and it'll pull nicely all the way through the rev range, and then that typical inline 4, you hit 7 or 8 grand and it really, really picks up. Just like that. You can never ever get tired of that. And then tickle it back down again and it's happy again. It's extraordinary. The gearbox is absolutely sublime. It's near enough perfect. The only thing that would make it better would be a quick shifter and you know, a blipper as well, but it's just silky smooth. It doesn't need much input from your left foot. It just snicks from one to the next, both up and down the box. It's one of the nicest gearbox I've ever used on any bike, and it just makes riding briskly so simple. I love the riding position as well. It's incredibly roomy, which for me at just over 6'1" is really important. Look, it is a super sports bike, so it is bum in the air, wrist down, hunch over the tanks time, but it's incredibly roomy. I mean, the pegs are high but not too high. My feet are tucked back but not really tucked back. Drop down onto my wrists. It's pretty comfortable. After riding this for a couple of hours, your wrists aren't killing you, and it's really easy to move around on the bike as well for corners. You could, if you wanted to, use this as an everyday bike. It's got Honda reliability. It'll start on the button every morning. You can get a little bit of luggage on the pillion seat, and it'll deal with pretty much anything you chuck at it. Some downsides to this bike? Well, firstly, a couple of, depending on your point of view, could be a downside or an upside. No traction control, no cornering ABS, no anti-wheelie, anything like that. In terms of drive, it's completely analog. And in today's market, with whiz-bang electronics on pretty much everything, you can look at that as a bit of a downside. But on the flip side, there is something incredibly rewarding about doing everything yourself and getting the best out of the bike from your own riding skill, rather than kind of hitting the corner of an apex, just opening the throttle wide open on the bike and letting the electronics help you out. It's horses for courses. The other possible downside is that this only, and I put only in inverted commas, has about 175 horsepower. So if you're someone who likes playing top trumps and has got to keep up with the Joneses and have the maximum amount of power under your wrist at any time, then this isn't the bike for you. I heard someone saying the other day they wouldn't buy either this or the latest model Fireblade because it just didn't have enough power and it wasn't fast enough. I think that's absolute nonsense. I mean, yeah, if you're out on the track, skimming your knee and looking for every last tenth, you'll get quicker times out of some other bikes. But as a road bike, oh, it's got more than enough power. I can honestly say in the 10,500 miles I've ridden this bike, never once have I thought, ooh, I need more power. On the road, you just don't need it. I know a lot of people don't like these sorts of roads, they prefer faster A roads. Yeah, I love doing those, but there is something very rewarding about riding these sorts of roads. But you have to be so careful of not going too fast. You remember the rule? Your speed should always be governed by being able to stop in the road ahead that you can see. You also have to keep an eye out for gravel in the middle of the road and such like. But if you take it steady, you can have fun and you get to see some great countryside. Now this is the sort of road where you can have so much fun. This is where I was talking about the suspension earlier and the handling. Oh. So a couple of other little niggles. It doesn't have a fuel gauge. Now that won't bother some people, but I quite like to see it at a glance. So I always have to work out on kind of how many miles I've done on a tank roughly, and linked to that, yeah, the fuel light comes on, it'll flash up on the dashboard, and it'll then tell you how many litres you've used of the reserve tank. I think the reserve's about 3.5 litres. Again, I mean, you can use it and it's there, I just don't find it incredibly user friendly. And my biggest niggle on that is when you come to fill up, you fill up at the petrol station, right up to the brim, switch ignition on, the fuel light's still on, and it's still flashing at you saying reserve and everything, and it takes a good minute or two for it to recognise that you filled up and everything's all hunky-dory again. Can't work out why it does that. So one of the key things that people do want to know about or are interested in is cost of ownership. So let me talk you through a little bit about what I found out on my costs. So 2 years, 10,500 miles. In that time it's had 3 services. It had the initial 600-mile service, which is kind of just the oil change, the running in. That was around 90-100 quid to do that. And then it's had its 2 annual services. So on its first year service, that was around 180-200 pounds. And then on its second annual service, which included brake fluid change, and also I had to have a set of pads, front and back. That came to about 400 quid, including the pads. So all in all, servicing over the 2 years, about 700 quid. Consumables, things like tyres, well, it came originally on Bridgestone S20s, which were very, very good, really well suited to the bike. Yeah, great for road riding, don't take too long to warm up. When those ran out, I've switched to S21s, and they're very similar to the S20s, just a bit better. And I've had 2 sets of S21s since I've had the bike. So these are currently my 3rd set of tyres. So each set of S21s has been around about 200 quid, so between 400 and 500 pounds for tyres. So servicing and then tyres, about 1200 quid in total. Outside of that, it's needed nothing. It hasn't drunk a drop of oil between services. It's just been faultless. Insurance costs, well, she's up in the top or near the top bracket of insurance, and it's a little difficult to give you a like for like price, because I've now got my bikes on a multi-policy, so I do get some discount on there. So this year, to insure both the Fireblade and the Cross Tourer, it's cost me about 400 quid fully comp. Now, I'm in my mid-40s. I've got 4 years no claims bonus. I live in a reasonably low risk postcode area, and the bikes are garaged. They both have trackers fitted to them. In my first year of ownership, I didn't have a multi-bike policy, and it was about 320 quid. So let's say £500-600 pounds for insurance for me. Now the biggest single cost is always going to be fuel. I do keep track of my fuel with an app called Fuely, which I really like, and over the course of 2 years I've been averaging about 43 miles to the gallon. As I said, that covers all different types of riding. That's some long gentle motorway stretches, that's some real A and B road scratching, commuting, the whole lot. So 43 miles to the gallon. So I worked it out, but I reckon I've used somewhere in the region of 1,000-1,100 litres of fuel. And yeah, this is very back of a fag packet and making some assumptions, but you know, on a fuel price of about 129, 130p a litre, that kind of thing, and I probably spent about 1,500 quid in fuel. So I think my ownership costs, oh, you've got to add in tax, forgot about vehicle excise duty, that's what, 80 odd quid or something. So I think my costs over 2 years are anything between £3,000 and £3,500 all in. So £1,500 to £1,700 a year. I think that's pretty good going. Lots of people also do mods to their bikes. I've done very little actually. I've got a ram mount attached onto the yoke here to hold my sat nav, as you can see. Yeah, 20 quid or something that was. I've got an R&G tail tidy on the back just to sharpen things up. That was 120 quid, something like that. And the only other mod is my SB Engineering stubby can. And you can look at my videos on how to fit an exhaust on this model Fireblade, get the old one off, pop this one on, and also a video of what it sounds like and noise levels. It's certainly on the louder side, shall we say, but when you wind her up it sounds amazing. Oh, who can ever get tired of hearing that? So the proof of the pudding, as they say, would I have another one of these bikes? Unquestionably, without doubt, I'd have another one of these, this model, and I would be very, very happy. Does that mean I'm going to keep this one? Well, there's another question. I mean, this comes to the end of its finance deal next year, and I do like changing bikes and having something a bit different. It will all depend to what deal there is, what's out there. Will I buy something different other than the Honda? Very possibly. But it does all depend on the deal. What I will say is, if there wasn't a deal available and I ended up keeping this for another year or two, I wouldn't be disappointed in the slightest. This bike never fails to put a smile on my face whenever I ride it. It still rewards me and gives me as much of a thrill as when I first had it. It does feel different, certainly as my riding has evolved. When I first bought this bike, yeah, my riding skills were very, very average. And I wasn't getting anywhere near the true potential of this bike. And in those couple of years since having it, my riding's got a bit more confident and I'm getting a bit more out of it. And I know that my riding's still got room to improve, and I know that the bike will reward me for that improvement. So it's not like I've reached the limit of the bike and need something more. You know, when I first had this, I had the 650, which only had 80 odd horsepower, so having nearly 100 horsepower more, it was just, I couldn't get my head around the acceleration and the power of this thing. Since I've had the Cross Tourer, which, okay, it's only got 125 horsepower, but actually it's got more torque than this has, and is a pretty rapid machine in its own right, this doesn't shock me, I think is the word, with its power as it used to. I've got more used to it. Look, that's in 4th gear roll on, and that's just amazing. See? I mean, it's got more than enough for the road. So yeah, I'd be more than happy to keep this bike. Someone asked me a question actually on one of my videos about, yeah, if I only was able to have one bike, and I'm really lucky that I can have two. I know not everyone's in that position. Would it be the Fireblade or would it be the Cross Tourer? And it would be the Cross Tourer, undoubtedly, just because of the riding that I do and the practicality of the Cross Tourer. Yeah, love biking on the cross tourer. I use it for commuting and travelling long distances. Yeah, this would be a massive compromise. So it would have to be the cross tourer. That's not to say that I'd be really, really sad if this had to go. I would miss this bike so much. So there you go. That's my views and thoughts on the 2015 CBR1000RR Fireblade over a 2-year ownership period. Hope it was helpful, hope you found it interesting. As always, if there's stuff that I haven't covered, do let me know. Let me know your views in the comments box below. In the meantime, big thanks for watching. Enjoy your riding out there, keep it rubber side down and keep safe, and I shall speak to you very soon. Cheers!